a fireside chat. We'll be for about half an hour. And during this time, I'll propose some questions to Vinny, but please, if anybody in the audience has some questions for him, we will open it up to the floor so you can think of some questions. So for those who don't know Vinny, he's very well known in the South African blockchain space, probably for launching a very successful and reputable ICO called Civic in the identity space. Before that, he was the co-founder and CEO of a company called Gift, which was a mobile gifting company, which he sold in 2014 for, it sounds like, quite a lucrative price. And even though Vinny is based in California, he's still very much involved in South Africa with the work that he does with Newtown Partners, which is around investing in some startups within South Africa. For those of us who don't have a face for TV, Vinny definitely does. You might know him from being on the Shark Tank and being on Dragon's Den, and probably the man in the street will recognize him in that guy. So please welcome Vinny Lingham.
Thanks, Daniel. Don't forget, Augmentals actually was a Shark Tank deal where it was 2016, I think. We did the deal with Bitcoin on the show. It was the first ever Bitcoin deal on any Shark Tank episode worldwide, and then we did an ICO for that in January of 2017. So it was one of the first ICOs and came out of South Africa. They're based in Cape Town. They're launching soon. It's an augmented reality game that uses blockchain technologies to create scarcity and rarity for the items in the game.
So, Vinny, just update everyone what's happening in the Civic space at the moment.
I mean, Civic's just, we're just basically building out. We have a roadmap live on our site. Obviously, it tells you as detail what we're doing. The biggest focus right now is on identity.com, which we acquired last quarter, and that's rolling out right now in private beta with a few partners, and then next quarter is public release. And then essentially that's going to be a non-profit marketplace, open source, and it essentially allows companies to transfer and effectively sell private data. They don't sell the data; they sell the validations and verification information. So, as an example, if you're applying for a bank account and you need your wage information from, in America they have wage companies, so the payroll processing companies. The payroll processing company, they can validate how much your salary is. And so what happens is you then give a bank your salary information from your device, and the bank can check to ensure that you haven't modified the data and the salary is correct without having to go to the wage company. So the whole focus is privacy and ownership of data. You own the data, and when the third-party company is receiving it, they just want to make sure that you haven't modified it or changed it, and it's still validly attested by the source, the source that validated it.
And Vinny, for many of us in this room, we're grappling with the issue around trying to convince our employers that blockchain is more than technology. Do you ever see that if I call it the old incumbent world and the new blockchain world, do you see them merging, disrupting, operating separately? What are your views around that?
So I think we've got to take the perspective that even though we're about a decade into Bitcoin and blockchain technology, we're still the infancies. Like the world has just awoken in the past year as to what this is all about, and primarily the number one use case for outside of money transfers, it's trading, right? So it's just a big speculation game. Most of the cryptos out there don't really have solid use cases or even customers or using their products. It's very much infancy now. That's going to change. I mean, there are lots of great use cases for blockchain, but they're just taking time to be built out. We're focusing on the ID verification space, trying to get rid of passports and driver's licenses, digitizing all that. But now imagine working with governments and departments trying to get digital technologies into these organizations so you can get rid of passports. It's going to take years. Now that might be more high-end cases. We're doing some smaller things like, for example, beer vending machines, where the beer vending machine can accept your digital ID if you shoot your beer because you're of age, or weed, or something like that. But that's easier. So the consumer stuff is kind of easier to do. The notion that you can just disrupt industries, this is one where it's like, if you look at the .com days, this is like 95, 96, maybe 2000, depending on how you look at it. And what happens afterwards is it takes 5, 6, 7, 8 years before the real disruption begins. It takes a while to build the infrastructure to handle the scalability that you need to disrupt big organizations. If you look at Visa today, they process 50,000 transactions per second. And so, sorry, per day, so 50,000 transactions per second? Yeah, 50,000 per second. It's these are large numbers, and so blockchains need to scale to be able to handle these sorts of capacity. And that's just payments. If you look at other use cases for traditional databases, you get millions of transactions per second. And so we're far away from that right now in production anyway. There's lots of great parties out there that are promising these numbers, but corporates aren't buying into it just yet. It needs to be tested out.
And I think this question would be relevant to both yourself and Ricardo a bit later around budding entrepreneurs in this space. I don't think it's the best time to be perhaps issuing an ICO right now and things like that. What advice do you have to people here that are wanting to get into the space but have an idea that they're wanting to get off the ground?
Well, go back to basics, right? Start off with what is the problem you're trying to solve and how you think your innovation can solve the problem, and then go. I think last year what you saw was an indicator of massive amounts of investor interest in the space, obviously buying tokens and whatnot, and not enough supply. So when Civic and a whole bunch of other companies did the first round of ICOs in the first 6 months of the year, I mean, these things were sold out in seconds, they were oversubscribed, it's just because there were millions of people and there were just 1 or 2 a day, and eventually became like 50 a day and you couldn't keep up, and so then the supply-demand equation shifted. So right now you've got way more supply of ICOs and people trying to raise money than you have buyers, and with the price of Bitcoin and everything else coming down and being a bear market, those buyers have less money to spend. In the past, because of the rising price of Bitcoin and Ethereum, they were diversifying into altcoins and ICOs, just to try and diversify their wealth. And now there's now the kind of the opposite effect happens when in bear markets, including up to the day, it's more about consolidating to fewer coins that are high quality than going to lots of coins because it's a bear market. And so the good coins will lose less than the shit coins. So what is that?
And Vinny, do you see yourself long-term staying in the blockchain space? Do you think that is this something that you think is, legs that for the next 20, 30 years that you'll still be involved in?
Yeah, I mean, I've tweeted out something similar the other day, but yeah, I've been in this industry for just over 5 years now, and so I definitely have a long-term perspective on things. I've seen 3, 4, bear bull market cycles. I get slandered a lot on Twitter for writing I wrote a blog post last year where I said let's not have another Bitcoin bubble, and unfortunately we did. And because what happens after the bubble is this, right? This bear market where everyone's depressed and the regulators are going to come in and companies all skeptical, and it would have been much better in my opinion if we had just slower and steadier growth in Bitcoin, like it just doubled every year quietly in the background and without the volatility. But now that the volatility is there, it's created other problems. But it is what it is, right? So I mean, do I think we'll have another bubble? Probably, because people just don't learn. And so we're going to, when it breaks 20,000 again, it's going to run to like 100 or something stupid like that. And then everyone thinks it's the new paradigm, and it's changed, and we'll crash back down again. So, I don't know, for me, it's just weird because I've watched this happen so many times, and I'm like, when is the world going to wake up and we shouldn't do this again? Clearly, that doesn't happen. There's always dumber money out there, but I've actually done something interesting. It's not about being the smartest man in the room, it's about being the smartest man in the room and then acting like the average man in the room and getting out before they wake up to what you knew before you actually got in.
Someone wrote that down.
No, it's just that herd mentality is herd mentality. So follow the herd when the herd is moving and just get off before the herd runs on the cliff. Well, they don't fight the herd. There's my new motto is be a bull in bull markets and be a bear in bear markets. Kind of works.
And Vinny, what do you think we're doing wrong or right in South Africa right now in this space?
I don't spend a lot of time in South Africa, so I really don't have a good opinion on that.
Or what are the big things that you learned overseas that you think, what are your biggest lessons and perhaps your biggest disappointments or shocks that come along the way?
Biggest lessons and shocks. I don't know, actually. I think about that. Sorry, actually not part of that question. I've learned a lot in the past year. One of the lessons I think is just the community aspect of it. If you don't like, and every coin has a different community. You guys know, it's just different styles, different approaches. The leadership of different projects have different ways of dealing with things. So if you don't like one, just move to another one. like, it's a good lesson, right? Because you can stay in one and you can bicker and moan and fight and argue, and all it just does is get your blood pressure up. Like, find like-minded people that you want to work with and a community that you like. And it's great that there's free and open source communities out there. There's lots of projects, lots of things, building some things, and when you take a view on something and you decide that you like it, then go invest in that point and hang out in the community on the Telegram and the Slack rooms and get involved. But find people that have a similar mindset to you. Like, I find some people are just very narcissistic and brash, and those are the type of people you don't want to hang out with. And if they're leading a project, why would you want to get involved in that project? Even though, like, you shouldn't do this stuff for the money. You do it for the money, you do it for the wrong reasons. You should do it because you're passionate about what the goals of the project are and the team that's working on and believe in those people primarily. Because if you want a painful life and a glass of money, go work in corporate. Just saying. No offense to anyone. It's not my thing.
Vinny, I think probably, 18 months ago, you sat with the South African Financial Blockchain Consortium, and one of the questions that came up was around issues of tax and regulation in South Africa. And you put forward a really interesting proposal, which I thought was a good idea, but SARS doesn't seem to have adopted it, of taxing people at the point of entry of buying bitcoins. Do you have any different views on that, or just the regulatory space in South Africa in general?
Same view.
Okay.
Like, it was very simple, guys. Like, this is my pitch to SARS when we had the SARS meeting and the leadership there. I said, look, you don't know where this stuff's going to go. It can go up, it can go down. It's very volatile. And this is like while it was on the way up. And like, as any good tax man, they want to collect more money on the up than on the down, right? So they didn't like this proposal. The proposal was simple: charge a flat tax. When you go and put money into Luna or whatever to buy coins, just have it, 10% sales tax, and whatever profit or losses people make afterwards, that's their problem. So you charge taxes on the way into crypto and not on the way out. And once it's in, it's in, and you have to use your forex allowance to max out. So if your allowance is 10 million rand or whatever it is, that's treat it as forex for the once-off amount. And then it starts looking and feeding more like money because you have to track every transaction, profit, loss, gain, etc. Just one simple tax. But I think they got bigger eyes and they said, oh, hang on, this stuff's going up too fast. We're going to take capital gains and all the other bigger tax numbers. And the number could be 10% or whatever, 12%. Just make it simple for people to do this. Anyway, that's not what the government's trying to do. I'll drop that idea. I've given up trying to help because I've had numerous conversations with corporates in South Africa and governments around the world, and it's just the political process around these things. It's not, having a simple answer doesn't, it just seems too simple, right? Like, what's the catch? And I liken it to gambling in the UK, where when you buy you put whatever, 5 to 1 on a soccer game, you can pay your taxes when you buy the ticket on the price of the ticket, and if you make winnings, it's yours, or you can opt to pay the taxes on the winnings. And so, I always used to go and pay my taxes on the ticket because if I win, I want to pay taxes on the big amount. It's the same thing with crypto issues. Pay taxes on either or. Right?
And do you think generally the blockchain space needs more regulation, or needs regulation, should I say?
It does not.
Okay.
And like I said, the slow and steady growth, we've been okay, we've flown on the radar, but now it's kind of a worldwide phenomenon, and there's just a lot of bad actors in this space. There's a lot of bad stuff. You guys have been following, I got named as an advisor to shop, and I got text messages saying take me off, I'm involved, and they still wouldn't do it. And now that they're running to jail, and it's I don't understand why people do these things.
It sounds too good to be true. Yeah, all right, I'm going to open up to the audience for some questions. So I think we've got some roving mics. Does anyone have a question? Yes, we've got one here in the front. Sorry, I don't know who's got the mic. Sorry, Nina, thanks.
Thank you so much for the information on blockchain. It was a lot happening and a lot to take in. Just in terms of South Africa and security, what are the South African blockchain companies that you've seen? What are they doing to prevent another Mt. Gox from happening in South Africa? Bitcoin theft.
I don't know exactly what they do. So the whole point of cybersecurity is you don't talk about it. If you tell people what you're doing, then it's easy for them to get past just the defenses. So I have no idea what Luna does for good reason, because they shouldn't be telling people how they predict your assets. You have to hope that they're doing a good job. And then it happens with every exchange. You don't discuss it. People ask me, like, what does Civic do to secure your data? I'm like, we do as much as we can. You know, I've had people ask me, like, how do you store your bitcoins? Yeah, I'm going to tell you exactly how to store your bitcoins. It's like a GPS coordinates. Like, you don't talk about these things. I can tell you what best practices are, and that's a more pertinent discussion. Like, for those of you guys who are storing bitcoins, and, you know, first of all, I recommend using, you know, a hardware wallet like a Ledger or Trezor, one of those. When you create the keys, make sure you use the one, like I recommend the stainless steel, you know, ones where you do it in a private room, and make sure you, like the thing about stainless steel is that stuff doesn't wear out with its ink if it gets washed or whatever. You put private keys on something which is printed or ink. First of all, don't create any keys, or don't create any of the word strings on any online device. Or any device, just do it manually, and then put those somewhere safe in a vault or whatever. And then have two wallets, a hot wallet and a cold wallet. So you have a hot wallet on you with a couple $100 maybe, and you have your cold wallet for offline storage. And then you can use Coinbase vaults, and I don't know if Luna has a vault maybe, but like you can use vaults as well. Those are pretty good because you have 48 hours to get coins out. But depends on how much you're storing and where you're storing it. You know, separating keys are very important. BitGo's got a good solution as well for key management. So there's lots of solutions out there for it. Vault's another one I'm advising. But this is the tough part about crypto. It hasn't gotten to the point where it's just easy for the average person to store large amounts of money. And so, you know, for the more sophisticated group of people, if people want to students, yeah, there's lots of tools out there for you to use, and hopefully the tools will be easier for the mainstream audience.
Thank you.
Questions this time?
Hey Vinny, how's it going? I've been following you since I lived in Colorado and I was playing in the social commerce space. So just a big thank you very much for, I think, all the work you do giving back to the South African community. What I want to know is, I mean, you've really been at the frontier of this, well, call it the frontier. You are heading up against corporates, trying to sell the dream and get this huge idea adopted. What are some of the challenges you've faced at Civic in terms of breaking through those barriers as a blockchain-based company?
Yeah, so I think we don't sell ourselves to corporates or enterprises as a blockchain company. I think it's just too complicated for these guys to understand. So what we do is these are the services we offer, and if you want to know how we do it, we'll explain the crypto behind it. Most of the time, they don't have the skills to understand it either, so they just kind of trust that the systems work. But it's more what's the output, what can you do with Civic, and how can you use it? And those conversations actually go pretty well. We closed, I think we published over 30 deals last quarter, and probably on track for more this quarter as well. And we've got some big ones lined up, which we'll be announcing in due course. But a lot of these deals go into pilot phases, as corporates do, and then they test it out. This is a process, 6, 9, 12 months before you get an actual deal signed. And the larger the corporate, the more longer it takes. So what we do internally is we actually do something like a triage process where we say, okay, what are the big deals? And let's just do a few of those a year. Not a lot, because it takes a lot of resources. And then what are the medium deals? And these are like less, 3 to 6 months, 3 to 9 month time horizons. And let's do a couple of those. So this is like, let's say we do 3 or 4 big deals a year, maybe 10 or 15 medium size, and then lots of small ones. So we're constantly announcing all the small ones we do because they're very easy. Right? It takes a week to sign a contract to get this company on board. And so for the services we offer, it's a lot easier for companies with little to no infrastructure in ID verification, KYC, and ML. Let's know your customer and anti-money laundering. And so for them to use our systems, it's easy because they're looking for something that they can plug in and have to build it. For the medium to larger deals, they have to switch over to us. So it's a lot harder to get people to switch and abandon existing systems to new systems. And the bigger the company, the more difficult it is to get that done. But the small businesses, the ICOs, people just need the infrastructure plug and play, and those are the easy ones to do. So that's how we approach it. And then we also look at categories. So we have the basic financial services category, which we kind of cover. And then we've got new innovative stuff like beer vending machines, weed vending machines, pharmaceuticals, any age-restricted goods that needs access control. And then building access control has also very interest for us where we're working and we're actually getting good traction in that market. Being able to use a Civic ID and to get into a building, get out to an office, etc. So those are the areas we focus on. And building a startup is always hard. And the toughest part about what I've experienced in this one is just trying to, when you're building something which is so malleable and you can apply to so many different areas, how do you find verticals that you can dominate? And there just are so many. Like age verification is a massive market, ID verification as well. And so we're just going to see what comes in. We're very lucky to have, we get thousands, literally on the lead forms, probably a couple of thousand leads in the past few months. And we launched the free product version for the end of the year promotion that just powered in. So we struggle to get through all the leads coming in as a company with surf through them and qualify them. And we can't, like you have said, we can't respond to everyone. It's just not possible. We've got like 3 or 4 BD guys and that's it. And it's not about hiring more people, it's about making sure we just focus on the stuff that can be accretive. And the way we design, the company and the token economy, we have to build stuff which is going to enhance the value of the Civic token over the long term. And I've written about this, spoken about this, but it's really about what's going to drive volumes in the identity.com marketplace, which runs on CBC tokens. And so we're trying to focus the energies on that versus bespoke solutions that drive real value.
Cool. Thanks, Vinny, for coming through. Just a more general question around where do you stand on the public blockchain versus permission blockchain debate? And then another question around who do you think is your biggest competitor in the identity space today? Will they be worried about taking market share in the future, be it Uport or Sovereign or Bloom or any of those guys?
I'll deal with the second one first. So in terms of competitive space, I think our biggest competitors aren't necessarily competitors. It's the governments, right? And how they want to own, like it's companies who want to own identity. All the players in the identity space are trying to conform to standards. And so we're working at part of the Internet Identity Workshop and W3C and all these bodies. We're trying to create interoperability. So you can choose whichever, like every player is going to win a different niche. We may win vending machines, for example, and Sovereign may go win government refugee crises, and Uport may win corporate presentations, who knows? And we're all in different sectors, and the most important thing is interoperability, and we're all working with Microsoft as well to make sure that interoperability happens. And I think we're making good grounds as a sort of industry, because we're all subscale. We don't have billions of IDs, but like look at Aadhaar, which got hacked and have issues, and these governments are all coming up with their own systems which are not secure, they're not decentralized. So we're all trying to decentralize IDs and ID verification globally and digitize it. They're trying to centralize it, which creates this massive systemic risk for the human population. Like we're trying to get away from the one world government, they're trying to create the one world government. And so we're fighting that. That's our biggest competitor, I would say. And until we get to the point where A or multiple governments kind of agree that this should be not in a central database, those are the ones we're going to be fighting it. It's the same as the whole argument about money, right, and fiat. And so we're fighting on the identity front. I think everyone else with all the money sort of projects like Nero and Bitcoin are fighting on the money front. So hopefully we'll. And
permission versus private.
I'm just not a big fan of the whole permission space, because I think that kind of misses the point of Bitcoin, blockchain, and decentralization. And so it's kind of, for me personally, don't take it personally, guys. It's kind of heresy. As a guy who's been in Bitcoin and blockchain for many, many years, like why would you use a database? Why would you just use like Oracle, 9i thing? Like it's as centralized as you can get. So it's basically just like taking a Beetle and painting it red and saying it's a Ferrari. It's not, but okay, believe what you want. That's my personal take.
Just a quick question: How do you get to the point where you're doing 50,000 transactions per second?
Well, there are companies that are doing this already. And so the real question is, and this I want to get too technical. I'm not sure how technical the audience is, but it's the real debate philosophically in the crypto space, which hasn't been resolved yet, is do you scale at layer 1 or layer 2? Okay, and myself and a lot of old school guys are all layer 1 people. We all believe layer 1 is how you scale blockchains, and because that's kind of the point, and look at Satoshi's model and stuff. And so we're kind of true purists or whatever else, and we absolutely could be wrong that layer 1 is not the way to scale blockchains. And then you've got the other group, which is layer 2 is how you scale blockchains, so Lightning and all the other stuff that sits on layer 2. And I'm an investor or an advisor to a company right now called Solana, Solana.com. Check it out. They're not doing private sales or anything, but they raise money from private investors. And this, I think, is really super interesting because they figure out how to scale layer 1 using POH, proof of history, and 720,000 transactions per second plus on testnet. They're really scaling well at layer 1. So it's just again, I'm not going into technical details, but I think that we can already scale to those levels. It's just a matter of approaches, but then it's the philosophy and it's the history and the bureaucracy and politics of blockchains that leave us in this sort of situation we're in right now, which will play out over the next 2 or 3 or 4 years. And look, in 3 or 4 years' time, we will be having this discussion because at some point we'll figure out whether it's layer 1 or layer 2 or layer 3, God forbid, that scales blockchains.
Cool. Any other questions?
I'm just opening up for Ricardo. You can ask me all the time questions.
That's great.
Hi, Vinny. I'd like to know if you had any other ideas before launching Civic, and also why made you decide to launch Civic?
Yeah, I have lots of ideas. I always do. But I think launching Civic was more of a personal passion project, where as South Africans, and obviously going through the '94 elections and watching how in the US now this ballot box thing is very confusing to me. Like why people will stand in line and go, scratching on a ballot or even using a voting machine, and you have to have recounts and recounts. So the idea was when we looked at Bitcoin at the time, when we built our platform on Bitcoin, the whole point of Bitcoin was like to avoid double spec transactions and have unique coins. And at the time we started selling colored coins was kind of a big thing. And the idea was, okay, hang on, you could actually go and create a voting token, and you could have 2 addresses, and one's a Democratic Party, one's a Republican Party, and you split the votes, and there's no double counting, there's no double voting, you can have a registry, and you can do it totally anonymously, so you don't know who voted what, but you can check your vote to make sure it's in the right place. And that was the original thesis for the company. We called it Civic because civic voting and civic process, civic duty. But then we got to talking to regulators, and I spent a whole bunch of time. I haven't got all of Sean Parker from Facebook. Had a long conversation with him. He touched his team, and he's doing a whole bunch of political stuff. Spoke to regulators in Sacramento, which is the California sort of legislators. And the bottom line is these guys don't think in terms of 12 months or 16 months or 18 months. It's like, hey, we'll have this ready, we can do a pilot in like 6 years. Any startup trying to do a pilot in 6 years is like dead, right? So we just realized there's just no way we can go into voting. It's just too politicized, etc. And there are other companies doing it right now. They're making good traction. But in the same time frame where they're very early stage right now, and we partnered with some of them. The biggest issue we felt was actually the reason that governments don't trust digital voting solutions and internet voting and mobile voting is because the identity framework wasn't in place where they could identify and tie a device to an individual and a vote to that device or that individual. And so we decided to focus on building up the identity infrastructure so that you could actually hopefully one day cast a ballot using your phone from the comfort of privacy. And then all the regular objections come up on top of that. So what if someone steals your phone? Well, there's 50 million votes. How many votes do you have to steal to throw an election, right? Think about it. Okay, why don't you lose your phone on the day of the election? Well, how many people lose their phone on the day of the election? And so, one of the biggest hurdles to moving society forward is this notion, and this is also what leads to poor product development, is edge case development. So we're so busy worried about what happens if 0.001% of the time this happens, and you can't build the future if you keep worrying about the edge cases. Like, it's not about Civic being foolproof, because obviously we're not, right? But guess what? We're orders of magnitude better than a physical ID, which you can make a copy of or get a professional forger to make a forgery. Like, you try forging a blockchain record, right? It's still harder and more expensive than buying a stolen ID on Silk Road. And by the way, we've had people bring us the stolen ID from Silk Road. They pay $2,000 for it, and they look genuine. You can't tell the difference. You're not going to go and forge a block in the blockchain for $2,000.
Any other questions?
Guys, I came all the way from America, please.
Okay, we'll take two or three quick ones, and then I've got one last one, and then we'll wrap up.
It's me again. Does Tether have
Have you asked for a
money?
selfie yet?
I won't do that. I want to know what your opinion is on Tether and more about whether or not they have the money.
And what happened today?
So I'll be very careful what I say. I'll tell you why. So I'm a general partner in Multipoint Capital, and we're close to $100 million hedge fund in the crypto space. So I want my comments to be on the record, misconstrued, or affecting our positions. So if you ask me if Tether has the money, the answer is probably, at least most of it. Maybe not all of it, but most of it. If you ask me whether or not they will keep possession of the money, the answer is I don't know. And the reason is, who was around when Liberty Reserve got raided in the crypto space? Anyone here? I know you were. So the problem with the crypto space is lots happened in 5 years, and people who've entered recently kind of have a short memory or just don't have the historical context. Liberty Reserve was basically issuing these Liberty dollars, very similar to Tether, and the feds went in there and took all the money. They literally shut down. Where was it? Puerto Rico? Or where was it? I don't remember. I think it was somewhere. It was some weird, like, obscure place, but they were operating like, and all that money got seized. Literally, the guys went to jail, got shut down, but it took the feds like 4 years to do it, and that's what always happens. And everyone thinks that they're out of reach of the U.S. federal government. Like, you can go anywhere in the world, the feds knock on your door, like they're going to come after you. That's it. The government will let them through the doors. And so the question always is, what is there a large enough percentage of the funds that are there as a result of either money laundering or illicit activities, whatever the trail is? And if those funds are tainted, they're subject to seizure. And if funds are seized, the thing goes to zero. But the money could be there, and that's not the issue. It's where did it come from? And if you can't provide a proper audit trail of where the money came from, which they've not been able to provide for a year and a half, I just don't, I don't know. So in short, the crypto world, the markets can remain irrational longer than you can stay liquid, is the old adage. And it's kind of true with anything, really. And so while it's operating, I'm sure most of it's probably there, but it can also be gone in a flash if a federal investigation shows otherwise. So I don't know. We'll see. That's as much as I can say right now.
Very PC.
I need to be. It's all hypothetically.
I think there was one question here.
But be careful with games or musical chairs, that's what I'll say.
Hi, Vinny. Lately, we've been seeing a lot of weird communities developing, trying to get some form of independence from world governments, UN, etc. Like Liberland, there's a space exploration group that's a galaxy state of some sort. And what is your take on these type of modern community structures going forward in a non-fiat world?
I mean, I don't think that it's usually issues from fiat, but yeah, they obviously issue of currency, may not be printed money, but it could be old money. I'm very progressive about this stuff. I think having more sort of private islands and private governments are not a bad thing. I mean, why not? I dealt with someone recently doing exactly that, and they're busy setting up their own country, and they're busy getting sovereign land from the government. And, I had the idea myself about a decade ago when I was trying to get out of South Africa. I was like, maybe I should figure out how to buy an island and issue passports on it. And I had the whole thing worked out, seriously, before its time. But it was very, and I'll tell you that idea was basically you set up, you get a piece of sovereign land, and you set the diplomatic relations with certain countries where your passports will be valid in their countries and your citizens can go there. And you become a citizen, put like $500,000 down, and that's basically effectively a bond. So if you go rogue in a country, the country will go and make sure that you get pulled back in, whatever it is. And you just have a very basic island and allow anyone to walk and become a citizen. You do like proper scanning and background checks and make sure it's legitimate people who want to escape the countries that they're in for whatever reasons. Legitimate reasons like taxes and stuff. Not criminals running away. But it's, like, why do we have to live in a world where like, think about it this way: government's a function of society in the sense that we choose representatives to create laws and infrastructure, and you get born into this by virtue of the fact your parents have been in a certain country. But from a libertarian perspective, government's supposed to serve a very narrow set of tasks and responsibilities. But over time, democracy doesn't scale, and by that I mean the bigger a country gets, the less your vote counts, right? And so so you get these very large countries like the US, people vote less because they just have less of a fraction of the vote. Can you imagine you're part of a smaller country, a smaller piece of land, you have your own laws, you have a good rule of law, but the government's responsible for less. It's like saying, let's have, Santa, Cape Town, or wherever, as a separate country, what's their laws? Like, this is the fundamental tenet of democracy, right? America broke away from the UK because they felt the laws were tyrannical, and they did that, and they declared themselves, and at the time it was like a couple million people maybe. Why can't you do it on a smaller scale? Why can't you have 100,000 people breaking away and say we don't want the laws? As long as it's a piece of land that they can go buy. Like, collectively, think about it. If there was if enough wealthy people got together and said we want to have our own state or own piece of land, they go and bought it from a government that's willing to sell it to them. Why can't they move there? They will, people can move anywhere in the world. So if you want to move to your own country and start your own country, and as long as again, the rule of law would establish international relations. So you couldn't go and say it's okay to kill people and rape and pillage and do all these things in this country, because if your passports wouldn't be accepted anyway, you'd be landlocked, right? So you'd have to have rule of law, judiciary, and a well-functioning state. But there's no reason why private money can't establish that. And so I think, if you think from a competition perspective, it's kind of like startups disrupting big companies. Startups that can produce better goods, services at lower prices, more efficiently disrupt their companies. So why can't you have private states disrupting large states, forcing them to become more competitive? Because when startups come into the market, big companies have to go, hang on, we're going to get beaten, we have to drop prices, we have to be more efficient, better customer service, whatever. Same thing will happen if wealthy people start leaving a country and to go into a private state, the tax revenue is going to leave that country, and then the government starts saying, hang on, we can't fund it anymore, we can't steal this money, it's going. How do we implement it? Like, rule of law, for me, is the most important part of society. We have rule of law, we have, if I become president of South Africa tomorrow, what I would do is I'd go and double the salaries of all the police officers, give them great pensions, and say, you guys take any bribe, you lose everything, right? You give people something to lose, and it's still a rule of law, and all of a sudden the rest of the stuff you can fix up pretty easily. But when you have no rule of law, it's a free-for-all.
All right, we don't have time for one more question, but there's a man with a very diligent hand up that's waiting.
Can you hear me? Very thank you for coming into South Africa and sharing your wisdom with us. I much appreciate it. The question I have is probably on everybody's mind. I'm stealing it from the moderator. I do apologize. ETF. Big upcoming expectation on the 26th, but this might be a delay. That's probably inevitable. Either way, there's two questions parts to this question. Do you think it's coming soon? Do you think it'll be delayed till next year early? And either way, what do you think the impact will be on the whole market?
So I wrote a public blog post about this last year in March, where I said I did not believe the ETF that time was going to come through. I still don't think fundamentals have changed. There's no way that an ETF, and again, I can be totally wrong, while there is an investigation into the possible price manipulation of a currency by SEC and Treasury and everyone else in the US, they cannot launch ETF. I mean, the government would get sued by people with money into it. Because think about it this way: if the ETF goes live, and now people are putting money into this, and then the government comes and says, okay, hang on, there has to be price manipulation. Okay, then the people who run the ETF and the SEC who approves it are going to get sued. People lose money in the ETF because of not completing the diligence on whether or not there's price manipulation in the Bitcoin price globally. And because Bitcoin trades at the margin, in other words, the free float of Bitcoin does not go through exchanges, the reference prices on exchanges are not necessarily indicative of the actual average, the trade in the currency like Bitcoin. Now, it's different for stock markets because literally all public stock trades go through a market. In Bitcoin, you've got markets and exchange. Your exchanges which trade coins. Then you have the OTC market, which operates very independently and opaquely. And so you're able to manipulate reference prices for an OTC trade. If you know you're doing a big trade today, you can go and buy or short or trade on a semi-liquid or illiquid exchange. You can lose money there, but you make money on your OTC trade. And so this manipulation potentially probably does happen, and we'll see whether they find anything. But I think it's irresponsible to launch an ETF at this point in Bitcoin's sort of trajectory right now. And I've been consistent about it for a year and a half, and they haven't launched one yet. So I don't think. If I don't see it happening from that perspective, and I'm not the most conservative person out there, you guys know me, it may seem like I am, but I can tell you now that the regulators, they're way more conservative on this stuff. It would be a big black eye if they launched an ETF and then the investigation came back and said, well, there has to be price fixing. And the real issue is, what do you use as a reference price for Bitcoin? Okay, which exchange? And you can say, well, it's something that you exchange, but then manipulation happens in the Asian exchange. That's fine. And because of the bots and the companies arbitraging back and forth, this is not as simple as it sounds. It's all good in theory. Lots of things are, but in practice, it's a different story.
Okay, Vinny, we're out of time. I have one last question. What projects or use cases are you most excited about that you are not involved or invested in?
Tell me investor stuff that I'm excited about.
Or even one that you are in, away from Civic and some of the others.
I don't really shutting my investments either. So putting me in a tough spot here. I think I'll talk about it more like a class of categories. So security tokens are really interesting to me. I don't think we have the liquidity to support them right now as much as people think they do. But security tokens are real estate, etc. I think over the next 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to be pretty big. And then ERC 721s as a Magic the Gathering card player, I'm a big collectibles guy. I've been collecting these things for 20 years. I'd like to digitize them somehow. But being able to take collectibles and non-fungible tokens and sort of token registries, all that stuff, I'm very excited about that sector. Again, I always worry when sectors go to the fringes of innovation, okay, before there's critical mass at the core. So you had this in like the .com days, and there was a lot of overinvestment in infrastructure, and the USB guys wrote a very good blog post about a week ago about how infrastructure follows applications. So you didn't have people building airports before they invented the plane, or when they invented the plane. You need to have planes first. You don't have like rail infrastructure or gas gas stations all over the place until you had cars and rail, right? So we need applications for blockchain. People using blockchain for the infrastructure ready, so that it gets built right. And right now it's kind of the other way around. We're building all this infrastructure, there's no applications. And so that's something to think about. And then obviously traders fuel the speculation. So and a lot of the trading is in a momentum play or pump and dump play, whatever it is, and you're just buying it based on speculation. But there's no real right now today, other than Bitcoin, leave Bitcoin out of it for now. Most blockchains have no transactions. They're just and obviously Ethereum's got blockchain Ethereum, Bitcoin Ethereum, and if we look at the NVT ratios of all these things, they're kind of dismal. So if people aren't using this stuff, why are we speculating on it? Because we can. So let's see how it goes.
Cool. Thanks very much.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.